Hey, Jexiteers, thanks for joining. Can everyone hear me okay? Just sound off in the comments if everything looks great. Okay, cool. Excellent. All right, so thank you for joining. We're going to be talking about some recent announcements that the organization has made relating to their financial matters. And to join me on the stream will be Kim Silvio, who I'm sure most, if not all of you, will recognize. So, hi, Kim.
Hey, Jaxa, how you going?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good. Struggling with the technology. Apologies for the black and white.
That's okay, it's no problem. It looks very artistic.
It's working.
Great. So thanks very much for joining me to talk about this.
No worries.
Yeah, and yeah, this is going to be a phone-in discussion. So please, if we could have the link in the comments, Mrs. Jexit. And yeah, if you have any comments or opinions on what we're going to be discussing, please feel free to join us on the stream via the link that will be in the comments momentarily. Okay, so first of all, what is this all about? Could you just introduce this topic for us, please, Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. So the July 15, 2022 announcements in the Spanish congregations came out and obviously was put up for everybody in the XJW community to see as well. That's it there. And it came out and it was talking about, it referenced an announcement that was made originally in April 2022. And it was talking about the adjustments that were going to be made to the accounting procedures. As you've correctly highlighted there in point five, so they've then announced that starting in September 2022, congregations and Kingdom Hall operating committees will be requested to cancel their bank accounts and transfer their funds to the branch. So previously, in the April announcement, they had made the changes and announced that they were going to make changes about how donations were submitted to the branch as opposed to being submitted like we would traditionally know in the boxes at the back of the Kingdom Hall. So they've now implemented the next stage and said, nope, we don't want you to do that anymore. From now on, all funds, doesn't matter whether it comes electronically or whether it goes to in the box at the back, the money is then deposited into the bank of the branch, and they will administer all payments. All the congregations have no financial transaction responsibility other than putting cash donations into the branch's bank account.
Right, thanks for summarizing that. So just to clarify, this only applies to Spain. This isn't a global directive.
Yes, so this one is specifically relating to Spain. However, I've done a bit of research and gone back some years, and it would seem that the organisation has made it's sort of got like a template, and they're doing it country by country, and then congregation by congregation, because to obviously re-administer the whole way the organization processes. If you think about a normal company, a company will bring in change, but then it will take its time to implement that branch by branch. And that's in effect what's happening here. And it would seem that Spain is the first country that actually have their bank accounts cancelled. Um, but I certainly know in Great Britain, in the UK, in there are certain congregations. Sorry, the congregations now are under the Watchtower Trust, um, and which is the same as what happened in Spain. So it seems that they're bringing along a process of amalgamating a lot, even in the US. There's announcements that are similar to the ones from Spain and from the UK, where they're saying, all put all your donations online. Um, they don't want them to be put into the kingdom halls as such, like we would traditionally do. They want them online, and when you
Mm,
go in online, it's quite an elaborate setup where you can donate towards your kingdom hall. You can donate towards even the circuits are doing it now. Assemblies, you can donate to to disaster relief, and it's very carefully worded about it doesn't specifically say this will go to that particular disaster. We'll allocate it as needed. So it seems that the organization are just transitioning along to all of the money gets pooled with us, and then we will distribute as necessary. We will pay your land rates. I don't know if that's an Australian expense that they would have, and we will pay your electricity bill. And if you do something to the Kingdom Hall, say for example a doorknob breaks and they have to replace it, you then have to submit your expenses to the organization through this electronic system, and then if it's approved they'll reimburse you. So it just, even though this is specifically for Spain, it's a very clear indicator that this is just a rollout process
Yeah.
of change. So yeah.
So this is the shape of things to come globally
Yeah,
for the organization, and Spain
absolutely.
is
Yeah.
like a test case or the initial phase of the rollout.
It would seem that it's like a pilot program.
Yeah.
They did say in here as well. It says, obviously that there's a lot of bank accounts that need to be done. So we'll contact you and let you know when it's your turn. So it would be impossible for them to do it globally in one hit. It just,
Yeah.
it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And my initial thoughts about this is that when it comes to the workload of the branch, this is going to significantly increase the work that the branch has to do in keeping the organization running. So, I mean,
Mm.
it's an extremely inefficient way of doing things. So, what
Oh,
do
I
you think
agree.
their reasons are behind it?
Well, because I did a video about it the other day when it first happened, because I was a bit like, wow, this is crazy. And initially, I had thought that the reason that they had done it was obviously because they need to, I felt like it was a trust issue, that they wanted to be able to administer things because of a lack of trust. And that may well be a part element of it, and they're concerned about misappropriation of funds and whatnot. The other thing that I thought about after that was, um, if a company is struggling financially, in terms of cash flow, they may be asset rich but have poor cash flow. It may also be an opportunity for them to, rather than one Kingdom Hall in one particular area, even within, let's use Australia, there are more affluent areas within our country. And I know the Kingdom Hall that I belonged to was quite an affluent congregation, and we had quite a substantial amount of money. And I know that they said, get rid of your uh, bank, like, get rid of excess money in your bank account. I think it had Australia, I think if I remember correctly, it was about $5,000 that we kept in our account,
Mhm.
and had to give the excess money to the kingdom, to the branch. But see, that $5,000, if it just to use that as an example, if every congregation had $5,000 in Australia and sent it to the branch, it would be a little nest egg of money. But they also then have the ability to control the outgoings. So I think it to me it could be, another explanation for it be is, yes, it's more work, but it doesn't really cost them anything because they've got free labor in effect.
Mhm.
It's an electronic system, so it's obviously going to do a lot of the hard work for them. Labor isn't their biggest expense. It's other things. So if they can then bring all the money in and then allocate it as per their corporate need, as opposed to each congregation just continuing along and making the decisions unilaterally as a congregation, as to what they're going to spend their money on. The organisation then can say, no, 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 these funds need to go here, or do you know what I mean? They have more control over what
Absolutely.
happens to the bulk of the money. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's that's another thought that I had after I did my last video.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can actually foresee instances where the branch would actually refuse to reimburse for certain things, which would
Yeah,
leave local congregations out of pocket. And
absolutely. And
when we say local congregations, we're actually talking about individuals, because the local congregation no longer has financial autonomy. So if, as you said earlier, if a doorknob breaks and
mm,
say, for instance, the coordinator pays to replace the doorknob, there's a possibility that he won't get reimbursed for that cost.
absolutely. And the thing is even like I was thinking about it, I got really down to the nitty picky. things like cleaning products and toilet paper and $5 things, $10, $20, $30. A lot of people will probably feel embarrassed to go and say, "Oh, Jehovah, can you give me back?" Because that's how a lot of people see it. Jehovah, can you
Mm,
give me back my $30? And to just go through the drama of filling out the form, doing this, doing that, putting in the receipts. It's some people just go, "I can't be bothered." So it actually will, even though they're small costs in terms of what Watchtower's revenue is, it's absolutely ridiculous. But that's a lot over 100 congregations per week. That's quite a saving. So people will, I think what will happen is the smaller everyday things will probably come out of coordinators pockets, and
yeah,
or elders and or minister, anyone, like, "Oh, I'll just buy it, it's only $5, it's for Jehovah, it doesn't matter." So it will probably significantly reduce their day-to-day maintenance and
yeah,
like consumables costs.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And I'm going to put my cynical hat on for a moment, and I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that the organization knows this. They know that
Yes.
some brothers and sisters are not going to go through the hassle of trying to claim back certain expenses.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And it would
they're
also be
actually
a
going to
little
be
bit of
making a
a
saving.
it's I think there'd be an element of pride from some
Yeah,
people where they, "Oh, I don't want to ask, I don't," or it even could go so far as to be, "Oh, really, brother, you're going to bother with that $20?" Like, do you know what I mean? I think that it's
yeah,
got
yeah,
it's got room for shaming. So, and I
absolutely.
think that, yeah, I think you're right. I think it would be a reasonable thing to assume that Watchtower
Yeah,
would have some sort of knowledge of that or understanding of that.
yeah, absolutely. So we have our first caller in waiting in the green room. If we could just have them in, please. Anita,
Hello.
how are you doing?
Hello.
Thank you for
I'm
joining
really
us.
good. Thank you. But
Great,
I
great.
just what yes. I just feel that it's definitely a money grab,
Yeah,
and I think it's a test run for the whole worldwide organization. It's going to go worldwide, and it's just another way of complete control. They're just such a cult. It's just so evident now. As I say, I only left
Absolutely.
3 years ago after 36 years, but it's just if you can't see what they're doing, it's awful.
yeah, yeah.
But
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I mean, it's only after leaving that you look back at
oh,
their
yeah,
financial dealings and you see just how manipulative they are. I mean, I remember when I was physically out but mentally in, especially when it came to their financial matters, I was a fierce defender of the organization. But
yeah,
looking back on it now, I can just see that they really do just care about resources, particularly money.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Anita, when you were in the organization, did you realize they had so much money?
Did I realise what? Sorry,
That they had so much money?
no,
No,
not at all. No,
me
you
neither.
you just you trusted the elders. They were dealing. They were the shepherds that you went to. I was a regular pioneer right up until March 2019, doing the carts, doing the 100 hours, and just a, it felt like a pack of cards within 6 weeks. For me,
Wow, that's
I was just out,
good
Wow.
on you.
and
I
I
know it
and
would
I
have been
and I
hard, but good on you.
it it was, but I've seen
Mm,
so many others. I know so many PMOs, and a
mm.
lot of witnesses still talk to me. Not all, but some that would like to leave but can't because of family, because of the shunning.
Yeah.
Um, but just the money grabbing, and the fact that the brothers and sisters have to buy their own stamps, buy their own envelopes
Mm,
for all this, letter
Mm.
writing. It's just people will be ashamed. They will be ashamed to ask to be reimbursed because they bought a bottle of
yeah.
bleach,
Yeah.
or some toilet rolls, and no, it'll be, "Oh, were you giving your best to Jehovah?" I could just see where it's going. It's just another form of them keeping the money,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
governing, but yeah, the organisation keeping the money.
And I could well see that in time to come, that bottle of bleach is, well, brother, just include that as part of your, your contribution to Jehovah. Don't, I could easily see the organization making a minimum claim. Your minimum, you cannot claim for reimbursement of anything less than $50 or something to that effect, that I could see that. We don't have any evidence of that, but I could see that being the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see you being sort of felt to be shameful or guilty, definitely guilty for asking to be reimbursed. Like, really, you're going to ask that, but aren't you giving your best to Jehovah? That will be the thinking. I know it will.
Easily.
Not only will that be the thinking, that will be the exact language that they use as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Honestly.
You're obviously.
Well, thank you so much, Anita.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks so much, Anita, for joining
Anita.
us and sharing your thoughts. Great. And we have another caller in the studio, one that I'm sure you'll all recognize. Wally from the JW Thoughts channel. How are you doing? Can you hear us? Wally.
Oh. Sorry, I'm listening on the wrong device. Yes, I don't know. Hold on.
Wally, you're supposed to be a YouTuber. Get your act together.
Oh God, that's just... Okay, I'm reoriented. Sorry, I was. You've clearly been misguided here. Okay, I am. Am I lagging super hard?
No.
Oh no,
not
I see
really.
what's up.
Doesn't sound like it.
Oh no, I had the browser open and so it was like talking twice. Okay, I think I'm good now.
Good. How are you doing?
I'm super duper. I saw that you were live and I was like, oh, I have a hypothesis that I want to run by because I was going to sit down and record a video about this very subject so I can test run it on you guys. Sorry, I was trying to do a community post and tell people that you were live talking about this because I don't know. People might find it interesting. Anyway, hi, Kim. How are you? You doing well?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I am super duper. Maybe you guys had already talked about this, so I don't even know. But do you think like this is just kind of like insignificant and it doesn't really matter, or do you think like it's actually going to have a decent like big impact?
In terms of,
I think that this is. Sorry, Kim. Go ahead.
In terms of what do you mean impact on current witnesses or? Yeah,
I mean impact as far as like obviously when this gets read and there's an announcement about it, it's going to be on some level, like even in the letter itself, like it says some people will have doubts about it, I believe in there.
Yeah, but that's for the elders. That's not what they're going to tell the congregation.
No. But as far as like elders and things go, like that's a pretty impactful thing if elders start getting their little noggins rattled around a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that this is actually a really big deal. I also suspect that this is what they were hinting at when they, especially over the past few years, where they've been saying about obeying the direction from the governing body, even if it doesn't make sense from a strategic standpoint. I kind of get the feeling that this is what they were trying to prep everyone for. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, my sort of hypothesis, maybe this is a little goofy, but I was thinking like, yeah, it probably doesn't really matter. Yeah, there's a decent amount of money just sitting in congregation. So there's probably like some financial reason to just liquidate the 5K that everyone had sitting around. But I mean, like the real money grab was when they did it. When was that? Like 2013, 2012? That was massive. I remember at my congregation, we had been saving up and we had like $100,000 that we had saved up in order to do renovations, and our entire Kingdom Hall was already paid off. And then they had the new change come in and they were like, oh, well, you'll be put on the list for getting a renovation. And then they told us, well, yours isn't actually a priority. So they just took the money that we had been saving up for new seats and new microphone equipment, because it was an old congregation. Like it had been there for a long time. So I doubt after that they would maybe put themselves in a bad light just for getting $5,000 from whatever congregations had it. But what I was thinking is, if you are like a company, like Netflix, say, would you rather have automatic reoccurring payments set up on people's credit card, or would you rather have them mail you $5 if they happen to have it? And it just seems like because you can go online and set up reoccurring payments, and no doubt the elders, the next letter that will come down as, hey, this will be actually a blessing. This is a blessing because now you can make sure that your donations are actually getting to the worldwide work. We've all been there. Sometimes I don't have the $20 in my pocket. How great it is to know that your contribution is already getting there. So I think it's a really smart way to guarantee their financial stability versus, I mean, I at a Kingdom Hall, I'd be like, well, I don't have $50 that I pledged on the little piece of paper. Hopefully I remember it next time. And subsequently,
and
I
that's
never
actually
would.
interesting. It's interesting you raise that because there's a recent video and there's a young sister, I don't know, she's probably 20s, whatever. And she was saying how great this, being able to donate electronically, automatically would be because she would regularly forget to put her contributions in the contribution box. So it was actually a blessing. What you just said is, I can send it to you if you want to see it.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen
But
that.
it actually says that where she doesn't have to remember. I'm
Yep.
like, because what are you too busy talking? It's not hard. I don't know. I never forgot when you walk past the door where our Kingdom Hall was. You go out the back into the foyer area, and the boxes were either side of the door. So it's kind of a bit. But the other. So I think you're definitely on the right track because there's evidence to show that currently. The other thing is that. I think it's also if it is the case that they eventually do go online, it would be very hard to say, oh, here's your codes and your access to it, and I'll bet they're going to charge you for membership. Whereas if everybody's already donating online on a regular basis, it's sort of they don't have to necessarily do that. They don't have to charge, so it's sort of like a backdoor, sneaky way of increasing revenue. I don't know.
I think like the next line of the whoever's in line for succession is probably, if it's in their best interest to have some type of plan for when this group of governing body members is pushing up daisies, and they might be thinking, well, we're pouring all of this money into being basically sorry, salt's bothering me.
An online religion.
An online religion at this point, and making videos and that being their only thing, just straight up televangelism. So I think, I mean, why wouldn't you? Why would you want to rely on some idiot like me remembering to go to the ATM to get $20? Because I never have cash with me and I don't use checks. I use a credit card for everything just because like that's my generation. Like no one carries cash ever. So I just think like it's easy peasy.
And it's very conducive to your generation. I don't know if you guys have ever checked it out. I went back and Larchwood had done an article about the frequently asked questions in the donations on the website. I had forgotten about it until I was starting to look at this. But there's the technology that's available now. You can go into your kingdom, your congregation. This is online, and you can go in and you can get the bank details for the branch, where you can do a direct deposit, regular payment. You can put, like how checks are, who to make the check out to, Watchtower Bible Tract Society of Australia in this case. It's just refunneling all the money to the branches, and even goes on to like future planning, like with wills and estates, and how to do it, and who to contact, and what to do, and do we send you a copy of our will? No. Like it's a lot. Check it out. It's a lot.
I think the funniest way you can donate is your airline miles. That one always cracks me up. You can transfer.
Really?
Yeah, you can transfer your airline miles. They have like the details, and like you just contact them. They'll transfer it into a gift card, and then you can give the gift card to us. It's like,
oh my goodness,
cryptocurrency.
Yes, I heard they're accepting cryptocurrency now as well.
Oh, are they for real?
Yeah.
Oh,
you
that's
have
hilarious.
to contact the branch, but it can be done. Yeah, I was like, this is insane.
Oh my god!
It really is a totally different set up to what I knew, and I've only been out 4 years. Like it's not like I'm a
It
veteran.
used to feel more grassroots in a certain type of way, like, hey, there's a dude with a little tiny bag and him and his buddy go and collect the pennies that the little kids put in the box. And, hey, we did this for 10 years and now we're able to buy new carpet. Woohoo, us. Now it just seems like such a corporate machine at this point.
Yeah.
Like there's no semblance of this plucky little on the fringe religious group trying to make it because the end is right around the corner. It feels more like a mega corporation that's just going in that direction. Like, well, we already have hardcore supporters, so we'll definitely lose 30-40% of our entire membership. But they weren't actually the ones contributing that much. They weren't the ones that were doing that much. We only want the most aggressive Jehovah's Witnesses out there. So let's just go all in crazy mode and let it ride.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my tiny brained thought on it.
I'm with you on that.
No,
I think it's got moved.
Yeah, me too. I think you make a lot of interesting and reasonable points.
Well, that's
I mean,
never been said about me before.
And it's on video, so you're good for life.
Yeah. Do you think maybe that some point down the line they may introduce tithing? Obviously, they're not going to call it that. But there was a comment earlier about a membership
payments
fee.
is tithing.
Do you think? Yeah.
I mean, isn't it?
But do you think at some point it might be mandated? It might be mandatory, you reckon?
Oh, like, hey, you can't get through the front door? I couldn't ever see that happening.
jw.org.
Well, they can't do that, right? Like, logistically being a charity, they can't charge people to, can they?
They can
Oh.
Because if they write it in, and trust me, that's going to be a classic if they do. If they write it in as a religious, what is the term I'm looking for? Like a religious function, not that they would call it but tithing. The government cannot say you cannot do a religious. They can't interfere in the religious processes, or CSA would be a very different issue, or a very different handling. That if that's part of their religious practice, it's freedom of religion, and therefore they can do it. They tithe. It's like a club. Voluntary organizations, to be part of a not-for-profit organization, you have to have membership. They can charge a membership. It's just I don't know how it would go with the congregations, in terms of they couldn't introduce tithing because that would just absolutely rock everyone's boat. It would have rocked mine anyway.
So here's the thing that I always think about whenever I'm having this little mental debate is, when we look back at the changes they have made, like when it comes to like the overlapping generation thing or the change in who can be anointed, if you looking back, you're like, there's no way they'll change that teaching. Think about how many people it will wake up, and somehow they just say, well, a generation can mean 2 generations that span the time of about 4 actual generations, and people just drink it up. I was there and I did. So I don't know. Sometimes I'm like always a little bit skeptical because they've made such massive changes. So like to say, well, there's no way they'll ever change 1914 and 607. I think there is definitely a reason to.
I don't think that Ron the Pimo made a really important comment. I think I don't think that they actually need to change the tithing. The tithing teaching, because it's already that publisher mandating donations is everyone takes a vote and they work out per publisher per year how much, and that's what they're going to donate to the World Wide Web. So there's sort of already a budgetary expectation in the background from that the elders would have serious awareness of, that they would have make a commitment to giving X amount. And so they don't, it's not tithing and it's not 10%, it's just a commitment. I don't think they need to do that tithing because of the fact that they've already sort of in effect made a budgetary commitment to it, that they take so seriously because they're committing to donating to Jehovah. So they've got to make sure that contribution is made.
I was kind of bad at keeping up with my tithing. I would be like 1 month I'll be like, well, I'll just give extra for what I missed last time. It was very inconsistent. In
But see, you don't
general,
have. But see, that's the thing. Like that could be the case that they could get a report from the
mhm,
branches as to who actually is contributing,
yep.
whereas before it was anonymous and nobody really knew. And then it's, oh, we received a report, and how are your contributions going? And it would be a better way of keeping track of who actually is donating
Hmm.
and who's not. And then it could be part of a shepherding call.
And I suppose
But
Yeah.
if as long as they make some just like videos and stuff available for the public, like with free of charge, I guess they probably get around, losing their charitable status, and then they just have like you can just be part of the JW team, but then you have JW plus.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's every time I turn on my TV, it's like there's a new like plus thing. Sign up now for Wipe Your
Yeah.
Ass Plus. It's like, what the hell? So annoying.
It is.
Well, thanks very much, Wally, for joining us and
Yeah,
sharing your
absolutely.
thoughts. A lot to think about. But before you go, please tell us, have we been getting your name wrong all this time? Are you actually
Yes.
called Ted?
No, I just do something random every time I stream. I just type in something and I just hit
I
okay.
used to get so confused. I'm like, I'm sure his name is Wally.
I'm just trolling people. Like sometimes I'm Steph Curry, sometimes I'm Julia Childs. I think I was Donald Trump one time, Amber Heard. It doesn't really matter. It's just a name.
Okay. Well, great to see you, Wally. Thank you
All
so
right.
much
Well,
for
you
joining us.
mad lads have a lot of fun, and I'll catch you later.
See you, Wally.
Cheers. See ya. Okay, so yeah, we have a few people waiting in the green room. If we could bring on Ron Pimo, please.
Ah,
Hey, Ron, how you doing?
Hello, how are you guys?
Yeah, we're great, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good, good. Glad you guys are talking about this.
Yeah, so what do you think about all of this?
Oh man, there's a lot of thoughts. I can't remember if it was Wally just a minute ago or Kim was talking about maybe elders waking up from this because they already preemptively said there's going to be lots of questions and doubts.
Mhm.
But they've already prepared us by be prepared to follow direction even if it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But in my experience with some close relatives and elder friends, some people they get their edge up when it comes to money already. I've had some family members express like, oh, our elderly, grandparent or whatever, they shouldn't donate their house to the organization because they're already a $1 billion company. Like there's a recognition of that among some witnesses, but others, would probably not blink an eye of all the money being sent to the organization. So, but for
Ron,
some, it will.
I don't know what you think about this, but I've obviously expressed that I didn't realize that the organization had so much money. I know that probably extremely ignorant on my behalf, but that's a fact. Whether it's because I was a sister, I don't know. But do you think that people in the congregations actually have knowledge about how much money the organization and or the Kingdom Halls have? And do you think that they would be aware even that these things are changing, or that they'd be like, oh yeah, that's elder business, I don't care? What do you think?
It's probably a mix. There's probably people who don't pay any attention to it. Maybe they felt, oh, that's not their place. Somebody else just handles it all. But of course, I mean, there are reports or videos where they talk about, $27 million was approved for disaster relief to handle this disaster. So, I mean, they do talk about some big numbers. But of course, not like to the level of billions that we know that they really have, or at least in real estate. So I don't know. I think it's a mix. I mean, you can't work on the LDC or RBC at a high level and not realize how much money is involved in maintaining Kingdom Halls and Assembly Halls. So anyway, I don't know. It's a mix.
Yeah, interesting. It's an interesting concept. I don't know. I did work on the LDC and I still didn't know.
So something I wasn't aware of before I woke up, but it makes perfect sense looking back at it, is conventions are moneymakers. When they announce that we have a deficit, it isn't because of the convention center that costs $9,000 for that weekend to rent. It's because they have a set per publisher or per attendee amount of money that the organization sets on that convention. So the deficit isn't actual expenditures. It's not meeting the quota that the organization set for this location.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of brothers who work in accounts at conventions who know about stuff like this, but are perfectly okay with it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was an article somewhere I read, so I don't know who put it up, but it was actually talking about that exact thing, and they do work out the per publisher, per whatever for each convention, and so they start out in the negative because they've charged it already. It's an expense already, and so that, and also when brothers and sisters hear, oh, we're in deficit, everyone goes, oh, we'll quickly jump in and put our contributions in. So that changes now too with this new template structure that they seem to have. That's changing because the changes that are happening in the kingdom halls are also happening with the conventions, the circuit assemblies, circuit work, disaster relief, and it very clearly says in the frequently asked questions section that you can't specifically give to if there was a bushfire in Australia and it wiped out 3 congregations, we can't donate directly there. It's just part of the pool, and they will allocate it as necessary. So
same with Ukraine recently.
correct,
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the organization wanting to exercise more control over how the money is spent. And so this effectively means that the congregations have lost their last shred of autonomy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think in terms of timeline when we'll start seeing this in more locations? Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's an interesting question.
I can't say really. It's a very good question.
I do think one thing, I think I joined the stream late, but I think you already addressed it. This letter that has been talked about a lot is specific to Spain.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people are talking about it like, oh, this September, all these elders are going to hear this. But that's not the case that we are aware of yet. This is specific to Spain. It'll be interesting to see how it rolls out across the world. So.
Yeah, and I agree with you. If you look at in the beginning we were talking about it being Spain, but we were also talking about how particularly in the UK, what do they call it? The Kingdom Hall Trust,
the charity trust or something.
It was amalgamated, all the Kingdom Halls. That happened in Australia. It's Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, and then they created the Christian Congregation as a separate entity. So it's happening in the USA. I've seen evidence, and I've been back through a lot of the announcements and whatnot. And so the Kingdom Hall Trust actually went early in the piece, but they haven't announced the changes to the bank accounts. What I think is happening is I think that over the next 5 years, if you look at the time frame that they've introduced the online and then the amalgamation of the ownership of kingdom halls, etc., I think within 5 years, based on history and how far they've gotten to here, within 5 years, it should have already just completely turned over and be totally electronic and totally autonomous. But I would suspect if you think about Spain has quite a high, their numbers are on the increase. I think they're one of the few countries that are actually, their publisher numbers are increasing. So I think it's very strategic how they've done.
Yeah, that makes sense of why they started it there.
Yeah, but I would say my guess is within 5 years.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Well, thank you so much, Ron, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Sharing your thoughts. Great to have you.
Y'all have a good one.
All right, take care. Okay, now let's have Jonathan from the Apostate Coalition channel.
Hello.
Hey, John, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, we're good, thank you.
I was kind of lonely. I saw this live was on Facebook, and I was the only one there, so I thought I better come to where the party is.
Well, thank you so much for doing so.
You're very welcome.
So what do you think about this?
Honestly, nothing surprises me anymore because, if everything seems to be kind of winding down as far as time for the generations and everything. Everything is going to fall flat very soon within the next few years. So what have they got to lose? If they implement changes that turn it into an internet-based religion, or become the bank or whatever, they really have nothing to lose. They only have something to gain, because if they can just let it sort of peter out, or they can just make changes that they're going to make more money.
That's a fair point. And I suppose if they do go internet-based, they'll have a massive injection of funds by selling off all of the kingdom halls, and their outgoings will then be substantially less. So even
Yes.
though their income may be like significantly reduced on the long term, their expenses are. So they still could end up having a bigger profit than what they've got now. That's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, maintaining the real estate is expensive,
Mm.
Just for maintenance and stuff. But
Yeah.
they can. It's worth more to them as a selling, as a property to sell, than it is as a place for people to go when maybe 50% are still going to Zoom anyway.
And especially when you remember Stephen Lett's comments about we've got more cash going out than we have coming in. I can't do his voice; it's rubbish. But they seem to be quite asset heavy, and that their cash flow could be a serious issue, which would be a very clear indicator as to why they're doing this. And that if they can just set it up to go online, I think it could be that. Well, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. And once this goes out globally, which it inevitably will, I can actually see this leading to more Kingdom Hall closures.
Yes.
Especially if their long-term plan is to transition to an online religion.
And even if you look at McDonald's, they would be keeping very clear track. Macca's is a shocking example because none of them do poorly, but franchises, they have, they'd be getting individual reports from who's contributing what from each, and the ones that are not performing well financially, all of a sudden, well, that one's costing us $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year to look after. We'll get rid of that one. It helps them to be able to control their expenditure. So, I think that there's a lot of reasons why. Maybe the bigger ones that are actually making the money, they might leave them for a while, and just the weakest links get chopped off, and that may be how they choose how to get rid of which kingdom halls to get rid of.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. I mean, this organization is basically just a big franchise. And, the way it's set up with the elders are like managers, local managers, circuit overseers are like regional managers. It is just like a franchise, like, your McDonald's analogy was very apt.
So
interesting times. And it sounds like this whole thing with the changeover of how they collect the funds is just sort of a Taco Bell in Arkansas, that they're doing a test product to see if it takes off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think that there's been a soft roll on with these changes. I can remember them introducing the ability to online donate. That was around when I was still in the organization. I didn't leave until the September 2018. So it's been around for quite a while. But it was sort of just so I think people have sort of gotten used to the opportunity. You can do it. The language in the videos that I watched that are more recent videos, it's, even the brothers and sisters who are not electronically minded will have brothers to teach them how to do it. So it's not like they can continue to put their coins in the box. It's we'll teach them how to do the electronic process. So I really don't think it's the language. We all know that, you don't have to come out and go, brothers, this is what's going to happen. It's the way they language it. I knew sisters that I'm not going to do my Watchtower. I want my paper Watchtower. None of them do now. They've all learned how to use the tablets and stuff. So I think that is the language is changing, and I think that they've done the implementation of the base level first, and now they're running a Taco Bell trial in Spain.
Yeah, and anybody that's collected funds in the contribution boxes, you see, pennies and nickels and dimes in that. You see some bills, but then you see a couple of checks from people. and you know who are the contributors in the congregation by that. So going to this electronic means they have that way of tracking, and then they can basically, shake you down for money when they don't see it.
Or you can have a shepherding call and just a general reminder, and because we know you're not contributing, we're not going to come out and say you're not contributing, but we know you're not, and let's guilt trip the shit out of you. Excuse my language, Bowen.
Yeah, it's sort of like your tithing. I mean, your voluntary contributions are low this month.
How are they going? How are you going with your voluntary contributions? Because remember, there's nothing more important than Jehovah's work and supporting his network.
Exactly. I mean, if they're willing to guilt trip children about donating their ice cream money, they're going to really lay it on thick with the adults.
Absolutely.
Because I would personally love to see a governing body member with a clearly Value Village Goodwill suit on giving a talk. It's not going to happen. He's going to be in the most expensive one, is that with the rings and so on, and the pocket square, and he's just going to look dressed to the nines. He's not going to be like a lot of witnesses, which is they don't have a lot of money, so they do what they can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, John, and for sharing your thoughts. Great to have you. Please, if you're watching or in the comments, please go and subscribe to John's channel. It's called Apostate Coalition. Yeah, and John is also on TikTok as well. So thanks again, John. Okay, so we haven't got any more callers at the moment, so let's go through some of these comments. Okay, JW is basically just a corporation stroke MLM now. It's just hiding behind the religion. It's the same as groups like Scientology or Nexium. Yeah, and the Mormons as well. Absolutely, completely agree.
Absolutely.
Another comment, there's a huge lawsuit against the Watchtower in Spain. Love to hear more about that. 9 the hard way. If you could give us some more details, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't, unless I just am not accounting it with Spain. I'm not actually sure that I'm aware of that one.
I haven't heard of that. Lewis Cassar says, personally, I don't believe that those 8 blokes are in charge of the Watchtower. They are just puppets and being used to see how far the control over the rank and file can reach. That's an interesting...
I actually very much agree with this.
Really? Tell us about it.
So if I'm understanding Lewis's comment, I actually have a very, very strong opinion about this. If you think about a company, there are some companies who have the external face, the owners, like Donald Trump walks around and I own Trump and I'm this and I'm that and I'm doing all the media rubbish. But there's actually bean counters and board of directors and actually people who know how to run a company and know what they're doing that are actually then the real people in the company. And I think it's my opinion, and I could be really wrong, but I don't think I am, that the governing body are allowed, like these bean counters and board of directors in the background, allow them to, you be the face of the organization, you be the religious side of things, and they use them to maneuver the company where they want it to go. And but in the background they're running things full business like, and it is possible it's possible that the governing body don't even know that they're being used in that way. That is, I agree. I've always when he wrote, I'm like, yes, I agree with you. I think that they're just the religious puppets behind the bean counters in the back room.
That's really interesting. Ron Pimo just made a comment that I wholeheartedly agree with. It's one of the few conspiracies about Watchtower that seems possible. It definitely seems possible. This organization is a business, and many businesses operate this way. I definitely think it's possible.
These brothers, these governing body members, are they're spirit appointed. They're not accountants and lawyers and taxation specialists and all the other people that you need. They're not PR. They probably couldn't read a profit and loss statement to save their life. Not making any other. I'm terrible
Sure.
at maths, so I'm not saying that. But they can't be across everything, and they wouldn't necessarily have the expertise and to explain it to them. And the simple question is, how can they be on top of spiritual matters and be reviewing and researching and making decisions on a spiritual level and be across everything in the financial business side of things and be able to make it? It's just physically impossible to be able to make decisions across the board. I don't believe that they are the ones that are, they might be signing the piece of paper or they might be stamping it and approving it or whatever, but they're not the ones that are coming up with the plans and the thoughts and the processes. These are, in my opinion, it's the bean counters in the back room.
That is a really interesting observation and perspective that I've never even considered before, but it's extremely intriguing, and it actually does make a lot of sense.
Mm.
It really does.
Hope so.
So let's address let's
Either
address
that or I'm
the
completely
elephant.
mad.
Let's address the elephant in the room. Okay, what do you think is the driving force behind this decision? Do you think it has anything to do with the amount of money that they're spending on CSA cases and lawsuits and things of that nature?
Yes. I think that it ultimately, it seems, I don't know, but based on my experience in business and in corporations, I think that there's multi-level issues. I think that if you look at through all of the elders announcements and all sorts of bits and pieces that have been coming out for some years, they've been doing risk assessments on kingdom halls and safety risk assessments and all sorts of different risk assessments all the way along. They've had people from Bethel going out, even 2017, 18, and in Australia, they've had people going out from Bethel doing asset reports, documenting their assets, looking at, how big the kingdom halls are, how big the land is, what condition it's in. They've been auditing all of those. And this has been going on in the background for years. I know because one of my friends who was a Bethelite, is still a Bethelite in Australia, she came to our kingdom hall and I said to her, what are you doing? And she told me that they were going around all the different kingdom halls and they were measuring and checking and doing all the asset and then doing risk assessments on safety and does it comply with the disability access requirements, etc., and fire safety and all of those sorts of things. They were documenting it all. So it would be reasonable if that physical stuff is being assessed, that they're also doing risk assessment in terms of business management and how things are being, obviously misappropriation of funds, theft, doing all of those risk assessments as well. And also then looking at simplifying and how to best affect money and how to be able to utilize donations in a way that the kingdom halls don't necessarily realize that money may well be going towards CSA cases, because if all the money comes into the branch, they then don't have to justify expenditure. And the kingdom halls don't then, generally the kingdom halls and the congregants don't know how much money is coming in, because it's all going to the branch and all the expenses are being paid. So it's a loving provision from Jehovah that they're all, they're able to spend more time doing shepherding calls instead of doing administration. So there's a lot of benefit. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, it's all being siphoned out the back door to go to court cases and nobody's the wiser. So I think definitely, I think they've got a cash flow issue. I think they might be well asset rich, but their cash flow really poor.
Cash
And
poor.
a huge portion of it is not necessarily going out to victims in terms of compensation or compensatory payments. I think it's legal. They're doing
Legal
a lot of
fees.
external, they've got external firms, and these firms are not cheap. And it would, they could be burning millions per case.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I also think that there's an element of information control. I'm referring to the bike model. If they have more control over where funds are allocated, then local congregations have less visibility of what is being paid for. And I think that's a way of them keeping a lid on all of these CSA issues.
Absolutely, definitely. And they don't have to then, continually ask for money, because people will be like, well, where did the money go? Where did that all go? We know that we donated X amount of dollars. Where did it all go? And I don't know the full legal structure of the Watchtower, but it is possible, because they have to do annual meetings and they've got to have financials. It is possible that they've set them up so that they have like a board who, when you've got to do an annual general meeting for a corporation, that the actual money side of it will be done on this, this one, but the lesser money will be incorporated into the one that the general public more likely to see. It's possible that they'll then, do you know what I mean, re-siphon the money into a company that nobody's really looking. I don't know the full structure, especially in the American system, but yeah, in Australia, if they did a corporate meeting for the CCJW, they've got bugger all money. So in comparison to the Bible Tract Society in Australia, they've got lots of money. So it's a way of making things look not so good for the congregations.
Yeah. Wow.
Hiding money.
Definitely. Okay, so Nine Hardway, thank you for responding and giving us more details about this. So check out Spanish Associations of Victims of Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, I will definitely have a look at that. You know
the
about
hard
this,
way.
Kim?
No, but can I ask you a question? If he's there or they're there, I don't know who it is. Are these the people that organise that the protest, or the silent protest, or the walk on Parliament? I forget what it is. I just am interested because I do know of them. So I don't know, but I'll be looking into it. Thank you.
Apparently, it's a really big case.
Wow.
Big
How do I
high-profile
not know
case.
about this? Let the ball drop, Kim.
Wow. Yeah, definitely have to look into that. Thank you very much, Nina Hardway, for getting back to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So we have another interesting comment from Louis Cassar. When a company is not doing well financially, the only option to survive is to downsize. Watchtower is selling property all over the world because they are losing members, and they are not 8 million.
Yes, there's not 8 million J-dubs. I agree with that. I think that they're very asset rich, but they've got liquid asset issues, and that's probably why they've been selling the Kingdom Halls. So yeah, I would agree with, and they just don't need that many Kingdom Halls. There's not 8 million JWs. There was a massive drop, actually. Somebody who's married to a JW, hardcore JW, she contacted me in Australia. The statistics came out, and I actually will put it in a post on Twitter because I forgot about it, but it just reminded me. The statistics, we have census done every 4 years, I think. And the statistics from the last census to now, the drop is significant in Australia, which I didn't even know. So yeah, I'll put that up on Twitter because it's interesting how many people have actually left.
Wow, that is very interesting, because according to the last service report from the organisation, the numbers in Australia, if I remember rightly, actually went up according to the headquarters figures.
Well, that's a lie, pants on fire situation. I'll tell you, just bear with me.
And I remember finding that very surprising, particularly with, in the wake of the Australian Royal Commission. If somebody has quick access to those figures, I'd really appreciate if you could confirm what I'm saying on this.
After the 2021 census, in Australia, there are 84,000 Jehovah's Witnesses, which is 0.3% of the Australian population. Comparing this to the 2016 census, there were 96,000 Jehovah's Witnesses, which was 0.4 of the. This person's actually a mathematician, never been a JW, and can explain the whole 1914 607 BCE thing better than I can. She's very, very, very mathematically in a brainiac. And so she's all over that. They're not my figures, though. She is. Nobody would trust my figures, but I definitely would say. So yeah, there's been a decrease according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, which is the government, and everybody fills out the census. So, and if you don't, you get fined. It's mandatory.
Right.
And even
Right.
Jehovah's Witnesses fill it out, obviously. So, yeah. So, if that's
Right.
true that they
I'm
reported
al-
that, then
I'm
we
like
have kids on fire.
90. I'm almost like 90% sure that the Watchtowers, the organization's figures did not show a decrease for Australia. At the very least, it was like stagnant. But I'm almost certain that it didn't show a decrease, which I remember being really surprised about that, because I was like, if anywhere is going to have a decrease, it will be Australia because of the Royal Commission.
Yeah, their lie pants is on fire.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
I'm one of those.
Outside the
'Cause I would
box.
have been in 16. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So outside the box says the organization can say any number. Who would know exactly how many JWs are in the world and who could check it? Absolutely right.
Well, in Australia, we have
And
the Australian Bureau of Statistics.
mhm,
So they're saying ministers who teach the Bible in Australia, 70,000. But that doesn't say whether it's an increase or a decrease. So I don't know. We'll
right,
look into that.
right.
I might do a Twitter
Yeah.
post.
And remember, they have the old theocratic warfare rule, so they can basically lie about anything they want, and
That's
it's
funny.
all
Do
perfectly
lightning? They
fine.
lie about lying and lying.
Yes, yeah, they definitely do.
We all know there's one thing Jehovah can't do. Titus 1:2, just saying.
Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, let's have a couple of more comments and then we'll wrap up. So maybe the Watchtower is expecting a major decline in health of these older elders they probably see this as extreme threat to what their assets, so they're consolidating.
I think it's going to definitely cause a bit of an issue as they lose governing body members. Obviously, there's a few that are younger. I can't think of his name in a second. The younger round faced one. Anyway, he was the chairperson for the annual general meeting last year. I can't think of his name, but he he's younger, but there's a lot of them that are older, and it's really going to show. So I think they have to make preparations now for how the organization's going to look once they're all gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think someone like actually, this was something commented on by, who was it now? I watched something on this topic recently. I think it was Ben Ford, actually, one of his recent videos where he spoke about the newer governing body helpers, and that they are a little bit younger. And it may be the case that these are the ones that are being groomed to take over.
Yeah, and I did see that. There was also a talk last year. I just can't remember whether it was at the annual general meeting but it was they were talking about the time. It was Samuel Hurd, I think, where he was saying about the time may come where that they're all died before the Great Tribulation, and that these men are being trained now to be able to look after everybody while in that interim period between when they die and when the Great Tribulation starts. So that's very much in line with what Ben was saying. I thought of that when he said that. I'm like, that makes sense. This is the thing that I've started to realize about Watchtower, and probably a bit late to the show, but I've started to realize that they're like 5 years ahead of everybody. They start introducing this as a little bit like it's information control, and then all of a sudden, by the time the change comes, it's like, oh yeah, we knew that. And it's that confirmation bias where we knew that was going to happen, and it's like, no, you didn't. They've told you it's going to happen. There's no scriptural basis for it. They told you, but now it's so in your mind that it's very dodgy. It's a cult.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a cult.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for joining us. This has been a great discussion. Some really, really interesting things to think about. And it's going to be a very intriguing next few years. Let's wait and see what happens and how all of this plays out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to Kim's channel. I've put a link in the description below. She does regular updates about things such as this. So please go and give her a sub, and also like this video. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Yeah, so thank you for everyone who joined the stream as well. There was at least one person who joined the stream but had to go. I'm really sorry that we kept you waiting. There were a few people backed up in the green room, but hope to have you on next time. So thanks again for watching, everyone. Please proceed to the Jexit in an orderly fashion, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much for watching to the very end of the video. If you haven't already done so, please like, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. If you like my work and want to help me continue doing it, please support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Jexit_2020.